Hi folks, and welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining me. Well, we're now into our third and final part of the good, the bad and the ugly of my experiences of the models I've built, which is not that many, and it's by no means an exhaustive list, nor does it mean that these kits are the best or worst in the world or even in their category. It's just based on what happened when I actually came to construct them. Because I do model reviews like a lot of people, and it only tells you what they look like in the box. No idea of how it's actually going to go together, and that is a big part of modelling. Big part of the time, huge part of the enjoyment or pain, depending on which you end up having. Now we're into the nastiest of the nasty, the ugly. Now these are kits that they look great now. Well, you'll also see some of my some of these are made 10 years ago plus. One of them is a bit more recent than that, which I'll go into in a moment, but it doesn't mean that I'm any paragon of virtue. You'll see some of my modelling skills on these are a bit rudimentary at the time they were built, but I have moved on a lot, and I certainly think that the worst, perhaps the worst of the three, against expectations, this is what I'm talking about. How does it compare to what we expected from the manufacturer at the price? Was it good value? Or obviously they're not. These are the worst of the worst that I've experienced. But there we go. I'll walk you through them one by one. One thing I should just say at the end here as well in this final episode. I've realised when I've gone through my collection of models I've built, and I've got about 60 or 70 models that are actually in my cabinets. There's no armour that I've either put in the good category or the bad or the ugly, and I think it's probably because armour's kind of less critical, you know, you can get away with more. I've never really had an absolutely tragic armour kit, or even the figures either, to come to that, the posable miniature figures, and I've never had an absolutely outstanding one that was completely a dream either, so they've all fallen into sort of an average. Some better than others, obviously, but there's nothing that's really struck me to include them as the best or the worst kits I've experienced. They seem to almost all be aircraft and one or two vehicles, which I've come to, seen already. Anyway, let's crack on with the lowest of the low. The things that have given me the most agony and why. Starting with, in the background, the Airfix Avro Vulcan B2. Now this is not the new one that's just about to come out, so please don't read into this that there's been quite a few that I've had that have been bad or ugly that have been Airfix, but they're all the older generation stuff mostly. It does seem that now Airfix has turned a big corner, and the new stuff they're producing, mostly with one exception, the Spitfire 14, beg your pardon, which was a bit of a horror. Not that I've built it, but everybody seems to have problems with that kit. But most of the rest of them seem to be absolutely brilliant now. So please don't think I'm bashing Airfix. This is Airfix as it used to be, before they had the Hornby takeover, I think mainly as well. So anyway, let's get straight into it. So it's the Vulcan, and it's not good. So we have it here. We've also got some fairly outdated, rudimentary, mediocre modelling skills on my part. So let me just move this one out of the way and we'll get right into it. Basically, anybody that's built this kit will tell you the same story, I'm sure. We've had a lot of issues with it, and most of them are to do with these intakes. We have a horrible step in them. I have to be honest, I built this over a decade ago and I didn't bother doing anything with it really. I didn't put the effort in, and I wasn't as skilled anyway then. We've got a big seam line which is nasty. You can see it runs down. I'll zoom you so you can actually see this properly, and it runs down into the intakes for the engine. Should do us. Now then, see that seam line? Very nasty. Absolutely hideous, very hard to deal with. You've got this lip at the bottom as well. Then you've got, the seam. It's a really bad piece of manufacture, to be honest. It's probably hard to get the focus on this, but the seam between the two, top and bottom, runs all the way into the engines. it's quite nasty. My camera's really struggling here. But you get the picture. It's pretty bad. I'm just going to give you a little bit more zoom there because... And yeah, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking he didn't. He's got a lot of silvering on those decals. Well, again, as I say, I was no paragon of virtue on this. But this is nasty. Very, very nasty. Bad alignment. Bad. Just the parts don't go together well. You've got an unusual system of having the fuselage in a top and bottom, two halves of top and bottom. Now that works in some respects. I think it works quite well on the nose, which would have looked hideous if it had been, especially based on Airfix's quality of the day. That would have been pretty hideous. But I mean, it's come out as a kit I thought was quite nice. I haven't done a premium job of it. A little bit of weathering here and there, nothing to speak of. But it's come out looking like a nice Vulcan. I got the paint job nice. My problem was always a bit idle and not very skilled with the finishing. So, as I say, I'm no saint here. But this is not a nice kit to build. Getting the halves to go together well is difficult. These intakes are absolutely hideous. Not much better at the back. Again, we've got a very nasty seam here. I don't know if I can show this without damaging the model. It's a big old beast, isn't it? It takes up quite a lot of room in my cabinet, this one, I can tell you. I'm going to get you a bit closer. Yeah, I mean, it looks like quite a decent Vulcan, isn't it? Nobody gets close enough to it to sort of see the things that I sort of see. So, I suppose I shouldn't worry too much. Let's see if we can... There we go. See what I mean about these seams? I mean, I should have cleaned them up. It's a bit of idleness on my part. But it's just not a nice kit, the way it goes together. And, the way that they've assembled it, it's got seams everywhere, and I should have done more to it, but I didn't feel like it at the time, to be quite honest. I thought it was not necessarily worth it. So there you go. That's the Vulcan. It's bad, but manageable. It can be overcome. And of course, frankly, this thing is going to be obsoleted anyway, because the new model that's coming out anytime soon from Airfix, that is going to completely make this totally obsolete. And I would expect them to probably, I don't know if they'll even keep the mould for this because it wasn't great. I'm sure the new one will be beautiful. So that's the Vulcan. Then we're getting into the two worst of all time for me. Now this next one will probably surprise a lot of people. It is the Eduard Mirage 3C. And I'm going to zoom in on this because it's actually come out looking okay in the end. As long as you don't look too closely. And when I say too closely, I mean in terms of... Sorry, let me just rearrange here. It's trickier to get these camera angles than you realise. There we go. Right, now then. There we are. So it's come out quite a nice model. I made some mods to make it. I wanted the Arab-Israeli 6-day war, 1967. And so I had to make some modifications. So I actually scratch built these Matra rocket pods. They're actually a fuel pod and a rocket pod. The front is a Matra rocket pod, and the back is a fuel pod, fuel drop tank, I should say, in effect. They don't obviously drop them though because they want the rocket pod back. But it's a very clever design that Matra came out with, and it used to be on the Airfix like this, but for some reason it's not included in any kit I've seen recently. So I had to fabricate my own, so I did that. But the issues with this kit, and the real story here, is I think classic to the whole discussion and impression people get when we talk about reviews and when we look at models, just in the box. There's so many today, and I'm afraid that Eduard are particularly guilty of this because I can name 3 or 4 probably of their kits that fall into this category. You open the box, it's got the most superb CAD design, surface details to die for, with beautiful scale, accurate rivets and panel lines. Just looks real. And then we come to build it, and we end up finding out that somebody at Edouard probably never actually tried to build it themselves. Okay, now I'll show you which one this actually is, so there's no confusion, because they do several different versions. It is the weekend edition. Here it is. Whoops. This is the one we're talking about. So it's Edouard's Mark IIIC, and it wasn't actually deckled up with the Israeli markings. I had to solve that myself by getting some aftermarket. This is the one we're talking about, and the problems are many problems. Not sure where to begin, to be quite honest. Essentially, it doesn't go together properly. The two halves of the fuselage are like a banana, and they still are actually. I'll show you. I got to the point where I just thought, well, I'll have to do it. If you look, I don't know how easy it is to see, but it may not come out on the camera. But as you are looking at it now, it bends like a banana slightly to the right, like a right-handed banana, curving in at the top as you look at it, and the bottom. And I got a lot of this out, but I can never quite... In fact, sorry, I'm wrong. It's actually bending to the left. It's because I'm watching it in the camera in reverse. It's the other way around. The bottom, where the tail is, bends to the left as you're looking at it on camera. I'm going to bring the camera in a bit more. You can have a look. I'd like you to see exactly what the issue is here. So, can we see that? I don't know if it's showing. Sometimes the camera doesn't show it as good as the eye does. Bending in like a banana at the bottom to the left, and similarly at the top, bending to the left. And I just couldn't get rid of this. Not to mention all the other issues like the wing joins, which are absolutely poor. And worst of all, something's rattling. That's not a good sound, is it? Don't know why that is. Probably another part that's disintegrated off it. But look at this. Again, I got to the point of losing patience with it in the end. Some horrible joins. Now that doesn't look brilliant, just ahead of that front leg and the nose wheel. But that is beautiful compared to what it was. It was huge gaps here, huge gaps around here, then between where the intakes come in. They were very poor. This was just ridiculous, I've got to say. Here, absolutely beyond stupid. I used filler and I've been back and forth, and that was as good as I could sort of get it without melting everything. Obviously it's not in a place that's that noticeable, so when it's stood up you don't really see any of this problem. Well, there are other problems. I mean, look at the decals. The Israeli decals I've sourced elsewhere, but these intake decals, they are the original decals. They were nasty. They're the wrong colour, they're orange when they should be red. And you can see that when I sourced the alternative Israeli decals, I was able to source tail ones that were the right colour. See how much redder it looks than this orange. It's almost like day glow orange here. And the tail one is right. It's the correct colour. So, on top of that, the last insult is the wings. And again, I'm not sure if I can get the camera to capture this and fully show you. See if I can get this. Look at the wing, the way it warps down on the left. Now they're supposed to have a slightly bird-like, on the Mirage, a slightly bird-like element to the wing. But not this much. Can you see that? The warp on the left wing? And that, again, has been corrected. A lot of it is gone. I fixed it. Yeah, that's the fixed version. You should have seen it before. It was like a banana. It was like banana shapes in every direction. Absolutely hideous. And I expected better. I was really looking forward to building this model. And I put it off for a while. And then in the end I thought, I'm going to build this, over Christmas, New Year, a couple of years ago. And I just had absolute hell with it. And I'm sorry, Edouard, it's not the only one. The new Tempest they brought out, that's got issues with the wing join. They've got the wing has got little lips in it. You've got to make all sorts of corrections to make it fit together properly, and a lot of fill is needed on that Tempest. Plus it's got no proper location points on the undercarriage legs, which was that was the other problem here. I just remember that, glad I mentioned it now. That was the other issue here. There was no location point for the actual undercarriage to go in, so I ended up doing all sorts of tricks. There's nothing for these little legs to go in. They don't go into anything. They just go to nowhere. Absolutely bonkers, the whole thing. So I had absolute hell with this, I really did. And I got more and more frustrated, and you start to think, why am I doing this? Yeah, this is painful. So, not good. Not good, quite frankly. That was not a good experience. I'm still not overly happy with it. I could go back and play with it again, but I'm reluctant to bother. The piece come off there, that's worrying. Now, what piece is that, for heaven's sake? No idea what that is. Anyway, it was bad. So frankly, marks out of 10 for that one, about 3. And I would never recommend that Mark III Edward kit to anybody in any form. It's horrible, horrible. And what was weird about this, and this is classic I think of the problem, when you looked at it on the sprue it looked absolutely fine, and I was like, this is going to be beautiful, I'm going to enjoy this. I've never been more disappointed with any kit than with that one. It was absolutely hideous, frankly. Just 2 weeks of pain. And that was the other thing, they call it the weekend edition. You're supposed to be able to build it in a weekend. Well, if your weekend lasts a month, then yes, you can do it in a weekend, okay? You must be joking, this is stupid. Stupid. Anyway, it ain't the worst. We now come to the all-time hell on wheels, or on wings in this case, model for me. I know that others have had the same experience though. It is, of course, as you've already seen, the Airfix 1/48 Buccaneer. This is the old one. Please don't confuse this with the new 72nd scale Buccaneer. One just come out, another one on the way any day, which I'm sure will be much nicer than this. This kit needs retooling by Airfix. Airfix, what are you doing? It's a no-brainer. You've now got the smaller one. You should go ahead and do it, because nobody seems to do a decent 1/48 version of the kit. This is horrendous, quite frankly. Some viewers may realise this already, that there was a production run of these in the early noughties, I think it was, where they spewed out a load of them, where they actually put 2 kits in one box by mistake, 2 bags. So if you got one of those, you did very well. For some reason I got 2 fuselages, nothing else. I got the rest of the kit, but I got a spare fuselage pair. Very odd. But unfortunately that didn't help me. They were both banana shaped, quite literally like a banana. I mean, physically like a, you know, a non-EU approved banana. That sort of banana. Bad, yeah. Well out of shape. And the intakes on this, the way that the top and bottom fuselage go together, I'm sure Airfix thought this would be a great idea and it would help them to avoid seam lines. They got this totally wrong. Absolutely hideous kit. And I don't know where to go with it. You know, many people know. You can see the seam line. I haven't done a great perfect job either, but I did my best. It was a long while ago, more than 10 years ago. But you'll also laugh that you can see blue tack in the intakes, because, oh dear, yeah, I did make a bit of a boo-boo on this. I forgot to put the nose weight in. But I think there may be an issue with the instructions. I can't remember. I don't know why I forgot. It was only later I realised. So we always have it displayed like this, so you can't see it, okay, or turning away from you. So I'm not perfect, but it was horrible. You know, it's got this nasty join together. You join the two, and I mean, yeah, you know, it looks okay, doesn't it? I'm sure from a distance it looks lovely. And I made a bit of an effort. I did a nice job with the canopy, I thought, with the cockpit. Come out really well, you know. But it was hideous, and it was again, it was a model I was looking forward to building. The problem was that the top and bottom of the fuselage shell halves were both pulling away like this. So you ended up with this thing where you're fighting it all the time. You've got clamps on it and rubber bands and, you know, grippers, and I had every sort of technique I could think of to try and get this to work. In the end, unlike the Mirage, you can't actually tell. It's only because I'm relaying the story, and anybody else who's had the kit will know what I'm talking about. It looks alright, really, you know. I mean, again, I got so frustrated I didn't probably finish it as well. I just wanted to have done. It's like the Shelf of Doom scenario where you just think, I'm just going to leave it. Well, I never do that. I always get to the end, but I'm not going to put millions of hours into it, so I didn't. But this was hideous. It was just stupid. It was the most horrible bendy plastic as well. I don't know where that was made at the time. Don't think it was UK. I think it may have been China, and it was just like this super soft, super springy, rubbery plastic. Didn't want to go together no matter what you did. It took days and days of clamping and all sorts, but in the end it came out looking reasonably decent, I think. Reasonably. So there we go. No surprises perhaps with that last one. I think there's lots of models will be nodding who've tried to build this, and yeah, it's like anything. If you put the time in, you can overcome it, but life's too short, isn't it, really, for this? And when you look at those other models I've talked about already, how good some of those are and how enjoyable they are. No enjoyment in any of these three, really. The Vulcan wasn't too bad, actually, if I'm honest, because I just ignored it and slapped it together. I thought, I'm not bothering with that, I can't be, you know. But the other two I wanted to make, especially the Mirage, I wanted to make it nice, and I didn't really succeed in the end, because as I pointed out, you can actually still see a warpage. But nobody knows unless I point it out to them, and everybody says, in the cabinet, they say, well, what's the problem? It looks great, you know, it's a nice Mirage, you know. It's got its Egyptian kill stickers on the side from the 6 Day War as well, so it looks really good. But I guess the point of all this is, you know, the sort of chat we could have had at Telford if it had gone ahead this year. You know, modelling should be fun, really, and if you get models that are as horrible as these, yeah, you can say, well, I overcame it, and you do get some satisfaction from that, but I think as you get older, and I'm getting to the point where I'm just not prepared now to do this anymore, if I encountered this Buccaneer, if I encountered one of my kits being like that now, I think it would literally go straight in the bin. No messing about, no more time wasted on it, and move on to something that's fun. It's supposed to be a hobby, you know, it's supposed to be recreational entertainment. I'm not being paid to do it. I don't, like most people, you know, you don't have to put yourself through that, so why do it? But those that do, I definitely admire, and I've seen this kit made by some people, and I've said, it can't be the same kit, and they say, oh, yeah, it is the same kit, but I took 32 weeks or whatever. I'm exaggerating, but there's people who've overcome it and made it, you know, good in the end. But, you know, given what it cost, you get what you pay for, don't you? None of these kits cost me, you know, 40, 50, 60 pounds. And we've talked about those nice kits in the good, of the good, the bad and the ugly. And those Tamiya kits especially. And others, you know, the Great Wall Hobby and the Ryefield and various manufacturers now that are even the little ones like Armour Hobby and all these other people. There's some really nice kits coming out now, really good stuff. Even Special Hobby, they make some nice stuff as well. So it doesn't have to be crap, you know, it doesn't have to be garbage like this. There's an example of having overcome it to a degree, you know, I could have done better, but no, in future I'm not doing that anymore. I would advise you to research carefully before you click the buy button. Just check out some of these kits are not a complete donkey, you know. If they're covered in flash and they look a bit warped, these are warning sirens going off in your head thinking, hang on. You know, I mean, we've had a bit of flash problems and warpage problems on the other things like the F15 I talked about under the bad, because they were not really bad. These are the really bad ones. These are the ugly. Anyway, there we go. There was no Telford this year, and I thought I'd just do something a little bit more interesting than just box reviews, showing you some of these kits and talking about, yeah, some of the pitfalls of the bad ones. And it's good to share that so that other people can avoid them, quite frankly. Anyway, I hope you found it interesting. Thanks for your time. Hope you don't, you know, manage to use your time that you're not using at Telford and perhaps get some of these kits out and do a bit more modelling and just take your mind off things and the way the world is at the moment. Hopefully things will improve and we can all get back to Telford perhaps next year. Anyway, thanks for all your time. Really enjoyed your company, and in the meantime, stay safe, look after yourselves, and thanks for joining me. And bye for now. Take care. Bye bye.